Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
We're so thrilled to have on award-winning singer, songwriter, entertainer, Grace Morrison. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
You know, it's like there was like a whole page of the awards you've won and all the songwriter festivals you've done that you've also, finished and finalist and all this stuff. You're kind of like a big deal.
I don't know. I don't know that I'm a big deal. I just really like what I do.
Well, and also you've developed your own sound with Saltwater Country. How did that come about?
You know, I was thinking, I travel all around, and the comment I get a lot, which I never quite know how to take, is, "You're too good to be from Massachusetts," or, "What's a Southern girl like you doing singing about Massachusetts?" I'm like, I'm not a Southern girl, and I'm so inspired by home.
Right.
So that's where Saltwater Country comes from.
Well, you've got this new album out, and there's so many incredible tracks on it, maybe modern.
Yeah.
And, it's tough for me listening to it. You've got so many different sounds, and you worked with two great producers. And I want you to talk about that, and also recorded in Austin.
Yes. So we recorded with Walt Wilkins and Ron Flint, and I have to say that's the first time I've ever cried when I left the studio, because it just felt like home, and like I was with these people. We all just cared about each other and the music so much. And we actually drove there from Massachusetts in our electric vehicle with my then 3-year-old.
Such a brave, that's an album right there. Yeah.
We've done it a few times.
Except it's not maybe modern, it's like maybe not. It's just a totally different title, different angle. I hope you took notes during the travels, right?
Oh, there's a lot of video diaries of that trip.
But I mean, what a great experience to be able to go down to Austin and have
wonderful.
two incredible producers, and Ron also using the well-known, always needed instrument, the glockenspiel.
Yes. Every record needs a glockenspiel, I think.
It's just fun to say that word,
Isn't
too,
it?
and that you have it in your album. And then Ron was playing some B3 also, right?
Yes.
Wow.
And Walt, I met Walt at a songwriting competition, actually,
Yeah.
the Songwriter Serenade, which is just outside of Austin. And he is, if you mention Walt Wilkins to a Nashville songwriter, it's like, yeah, I know Walt.
Right.
he's so amazing. And to have someone like him, like I had presented the idea that I wanted him to produce a song for me.
Yeah.
And he just kept listening to the songs and loving more of them. And it was the most validating moment of my career, I think.
Wow. Well, and this is such a departure from your past albums, too.
Yeah.
To me, and once again, you're the artist doing the music and creating it, but it seems like it's so honest, and you're really sharing your heart in this album with maybe modern, even more than the past music.
Absolutely, and I think the biggest shift for me, again, was the Songwriter Serenade competition. So you do this, it's Susan Gibson and Walt Wilkins are the judges, and afterward they critique. And my main takeaway the first time I was there was it was about focusing more on lyric and clear storytelling. And I left and just like, okay, I'm gonna be clearer with my message here. And so that was the intention behind all of the songs.
Well, I think you fulfilled it
Thank
on
you.
this album with the songs. And what I really like too, is like the backstory with Broken. To where, you got to sort of tell the audience the incredible story about this, about the railroad house and everything.
Yeah, I want the railroad house. So I love history. I am a big nerd. And the house where my grandfather was born in 1916 has been abandoned in my town since like 1954, when my great-grandparents died, and boarded up. And so every day of my life I drive by this house like just wanting to go inside
And it was kept
see.
like a time capsule.
Essentially. And one day I drove by and someone had broken in. And I'm like, I can't have this.
Right.
And I went in, which I don't advocate anyone doing because you don't know who's inside.
Right.
But my great-grandmother's piano was there, and she played for silent movies, and it still played,
Wow.
And it was just to be among these things and how they were still sturdy and functional, yet I know the people that lived in that house struggled with emotional health because mental health didn't exist then.
Right.
So just such a dichotomy between the things and the people. And then Americana Highways said to me, I have that whole intro, they said, so this song's just about being human?
To me, it's so much more because, I think for all of us, and, reading about this also to where, I think to where people broke into the house that, was such a part of your life and your family's life. And as you mentioned, with the Bibles being in there and the piano that your great-grandmother played music for silent movies. And I mean, just the pictures, to me, it really speaks to me with the cover. To where it's like, the things themselves don't matter, but it's the memories attached to them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, and being there, my dad passed away in 2016, so to be there amongst his family's things, you just feel connected to those people again.
Because they're part of what made you.
Absolutely.
And so I think that imagery that you brought across, and I think a number of the songs within this album, like Caught Up in the Blue, to where it's like, addressing, abusive relationships.
Yeah.
That a lot of people, don't talk about at all or find it very hard to talk about. And it's not always physical.
Yeah.
It's sometimes verbal and emotional. And once again, I think you did a great job with that song.
Thank you. Thank you. That one was the most cathartic to write because my mom had been the one I was singing about. And as the daughter, I'm like, I need to save her.
Right.
And to get to this moment where you're like, oh, I can't save her. She has to save her. And then she did, so it just, and knowing there's like elements of shame when someone is stuck in a situation like that, they don't want to admit it or admit that they need help or anything. It's just so much tangled up in that.
I mean, listening to these songs, and once again, looking at the backstories, which I always enjoy, it seems to me just pouring out your heart. I mean, were you like crying while you were writing these? I mean, it's like how cathartic was this for you? And I mean, I know you work with a lot of other co-writers and everything also, but you're really sharing in this album.
So it's funny you say that because I did cry when I was writing God Can Be a Mother.
What a great song. I was just listening to that, moments ago before you got here to the studio, and like, powerful.
Thank you. So it's a funny song because I wrote it and I was having this moment of, I think a lot of artists can relate to that, like, I should be further along in my career, And I just started writing and I didn't have intention. I just had feeling. Wow. And the song just came out and then I had put it away, and when I gave Walt all my songs, he listened to it, he said, oh, that one. And when I looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm telling myself to be happy in the moment, that you can't live on this horizon line because you're never really living.
Right.
So it was kind of cool that past self wrote it for present self.
Isn't it neat? And then, when the point of time that you find yourself in now, and particularly, I know these songs are being so well received, and for you as an artist, I mean, an independent artist, it's not easy.
No.
You're out on the road, you're playing, all of these venues, but also your popularity is increasing, and you're opening up more. It's a strange dichotomy.
It's wild, and it's like confidence comes with that too, right? Like realizing that you have an important story to share, people are receptive to it, and it's resonating with people. It snowballs,
Well, I've got to ask you this too. So you started playing piano at age 5. Was that on your great-grandmother's piano?
No. No.
Had to ask.
It was on a little keyboard from BJ's.
Oh, neat. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Everybody should play music, to me. I mean, I don't
agree.
care what you play, some kind of instrument or sing or something, because I think it heals us all.
I absolutely agree. I was a private piano teacher for a long time, and that was my number one thing. People come to music with this idea that it has to be commercial,
right.
But that's not what it's for.
No.
It's for emotional release. I think we all deserve that.
I think, and it goes back too with our families, and certainly coming from a musical family like yourself, it was always a part of the musical bonding. I know playing with my father, he was a bass player, and it was part of our bond. And it was just something we always did together. It's like, okay, let's go to the basement and make music.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's true. My mom will tell you that she can't sing and that she's not musical and blah, blah, blah. But I think that a lot of it came from my mom singing with me, like on top of spaghetti, because I just learned that you sing.
Right. It's just part of life.
Yeah.
And then you picked up guitar as a teenager.
I did, because of Hanson.
See, I love it that you're sharing that honesty, because a lot of people would not say that.
I have no shame.
And Hanson is doing better than ever now.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just bop.
No, they have hops. Did you know that?
Yes, I do. Had him on the show. I had to bring that up.
This is the closest I've ever been to Hanson.
Yes.
Okay.
You've been that close to Hanson.
This is my moment.
I know.
I've waited a long time.
I think we have to share this. Besides, coming from a musical family, and your album is doing amazing for the right reasons, you also were a backup singer for Eddie Money.
I was.
How did that happen?
I was too young to appreciate how cool that was.
Because I think it's cool, and I've met Eddie Money here in the hallway at the station.
Yeah,
and I'm like going, oh my gosh.
It was really cool. It was really cool. So my cousin was very involved. He had a charity called Rock for Christmas.
Okay.
And so I graduated high school, and I took a delayed start for college and went on tour like tour buses, the whole shebang. And it was Eddie Money, and it was Carmine Appice, and it was Joey Mullen from Badfinger, and
Oh my
Chris Slade
gosh.
from AC/DC. I had no idea.
It's like, I mean, the list, I was reading the list, you know, getting ready to have you on the show, and I'm like going, how does she end up back singing with all these incredible artists?
And I didn't understand.
It's like a who's who of rock and roll.
And I'm glad I didn't understand, because I wouldn't have been cool.
Oh, yeah.
Like if I had that opportunity now.
Right, because now you know.
Right, I'd
You
be all
can't unknow it.
Twitter-pated. Yeah, no.
And that's why you're taking the selfies with you and Eddie Money sitting back behind you, right?
But I think it was a really important experience for me. Like I got on a tour bus right after graduating high school to make the thing I wanted feel accessible.
Right.
You know, so it's just like, okay, I can do this.
And do you feel like also, for you, Grace, do you think it honed your voice for doing the recording and for, you know, doing your solo work now, working with these other artists?
I think that it's more, you know, the accumulation of all these experiences, you know, that have given me insight into the industry.
Right.
You know, and
Well, and also, I mean,
time.
you're known as an entertainer on stage. I mean, you don't just sit there. I mean, you know, you tell your stories. I mean, I think you've
Yeah.
become as much of a storyteller with your music as a singer-songwriter.
It's funny, when I first started performing, I was 14, there was a coffee shop in town, and they gave me like 3 gigs a week.
Right.
And the owner was he trained me to be funny. Like that was his main thing. So the first thing I ever learned was how to talk to an audience. That was number 1.
But, you know, that's the same thing with me from my old guitar teacher. It's like going, you got to baffle them. You got to entertain them. You're not just there to play songs. You're not a jukebox.
Right. Well, people want to feel like they can relate to you and have a connection.
And that's paying off for you now.
Yeah.
And now when you're out on the road with your Taylor guitar.
I love my Taylor guitar.
Yeah.
All
you've
3
got-
of them.
Yeah, but your main one is like the 816.
Yeah.
And that's like all over this album, right?
It's beautiful, yes, because I walked into the studio and Walt Wilkins had the same exact guitar. So there's like double Taylor.
There it is. There can be none more.
Yeah,
no more Taylor.
Yeah.
And then when you're on the road and you got a new case.
I have my Carlton case. It is blue and it is glittery and it is a statement.
That's amazing. You are getting so fancy now.
Well, if you can get glitter, why wouldn't you?
Oh my gosh.
That's my main question.
There's no question on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just more glitter.
I think so.
Yeah. Oh, I want to make sure for our viewers also, you know, you're going to have a bunch of festivals and everything, and you're going to be playing Americana Fest
I'm so excited.
in
Yes.
September. And you've got another festival before that.
Yes, I'll be at the Whitefish Songwriter Festival in Whitefish, Montana.
That's a big deal.
And then I'm going to Port St. Joe.
There's a couple well-known songwriters there.
Just a couple. Susan Gibson's going to be there. I love her. You know Susan?
Yes, but what does it feel like for you though now, you know, coming up through Grace, and not to embarrass you, but it's like now, you know, before, you know, you knew these songwriters and these artists, and now you're in the mix with them. How different does that feel for you now?
It's wild. It's wild to take a moment and think, oh, this is this thing I've been working on since I was a kid, and oh, here I am with these people whose names I read in the album folios. It's really hard to be cool, I'll be honest with you.
You've already sung with Eddie Money. And
But
Carmen.
I didn't understand.
I'm just saying though, but if you look at your past history, in the greater scope of things.
Okay, yeah. But Susan Gibson's super cool.
You know what I was thinking too, you know, listening to your album with Maybe Modern, it's like going, I thought it would be so cool, kind of like the album cover and everything, to where it's like you could have a stage set with like old family stuff like around you. So it's almost like you're in a living room.
That's a really cool idea.
See?
I would feel right at home.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, give me the antiques.
Yeah, and then also, you know, in your merch, you kind of like need to have some of that like yard sale kind of merch feel on your merch table.
It's so funny that you talk about yard sales, because when I was a child, that was what my parents did. Like that was our weekends, was
Right.
buying junk and selling junk. I spent so much time at flea markets. Maybe that's why I'll be right at home.
But on the merch table, then it's like repurposed, and you can sign it. You know, I'm just putting
Okay,
that
all
out there.
right, I like that.
Yeah,
We'll
just
talk
other-
after.
And also, is this going to be on vinyl?
That if I had enough people that want to buy it on vinyl, I would put it on vinyl.
I'm just saying it might be a good idea for this album.
Okay.
This might be the one.
Okay, I like that idea.
Nice little
It is
vinyl.
kind of warm.
It is, isn't it? I mean, the whole album, I mean, and once again, even the story, like, you know, and not to digress again on the songs within this great album, but, you know, even when your family had to sell their home, you know, and you know, and then you're always thinking in your heart, you know, you're going to go back and buy that, you know, and
I think, you know, I may have cried actually when I wrote Ghost of It, a song you're talking about, because
Right.
I mean, we stood in our driveway while our house was auctioned off. And I think, I mean, that might be the most pivotal moment in in my life. It really impacted a lot of choices that I made.
Right.
And so to write that song, I think that I had been going through life like, I'm going to buy my house back, I'm going to buy my house back, looking at my bank account, oh wait, I'm never going to buy my house back. And it was such a relief.
Right.
You know, just to say, okay, that can be there, you can't go backwards.
And I think our memories, you know, I know with the house that I grew up in, you can never really go back. You know, you have your memories locked in there on how it was, and just like, you know, your grandparents' house that was broken into, but it's like, you can't regain those memories because the people aren't in there anymore, the people that made it what it was.
Right.
And being able to admit that to yourself and then move on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I still need to remind myself sometimes, you know, because my dad's gone now, there's this piece of me that's like, oh, if I was just in that house, you know, but he still wouldn't be there.
No.
So it's important to remind ourselves.
So in between, you know, with the album out, the tour, Americana Fest, all these great things, let's talk cranberries.
Let's talk cranberries.
So what are you doing with the cranberries? I mean, in Massachusetts, you know.
Yep, we got 40 acres cranberry bogs. It is a family harvest, and it's one of my favorite things to do.
That is so neat. I mean, that is so like just natural, right?
Yeah. Well, we're swamp Yankees. Are you familiar with that term?
No,
like
I'm not.
old school Cape Coddas.
I mean, because Saltwater Country was new to me also.
Okay, well,
Until I
I made
dug
that
down.
one up.
I like that.
But swamp Yankees are a real thing, just old school Cape Cod people, and we dry harvest with machines like from the 1920s. They haven't really updated.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, and it's exhausting.
But I mean, also fulfilling.
Yes, it's the best kind of
So like,
exhausting.
do you make like any preserves or anything with your cranberries? What do you make with the cranberries?
I do. I make cranberry sauce. I like a molded cranberry sauce, and I have a little elephant mold I use. So I have like circus cranberry sauce. And I do cranberry
is that?
chutney. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, next time we get together, I got to sample some.
All right, send you some berries.
Okay, please do. I make homemade wine. We'll work out a trade.
Oh, yeah, cranberry wine.
I'm just saying, we'll talk about this.
Okay,
Well, I want to
deal.
make sure for our viewers that they know, Grace, for the tour, for more of these great songwriter deals, also for Americana Fest, are more singles going to be coming out from the album?
Not from this album, no.
Okay, you already working on the next one?
But I did record here in Nashville yesterday, so there's always stuff coming.
But I'll tell you what, I love this new album, Maybe Modern, to where, you know, you need to add it to your playlist. I'm hoping it comes out on vinyl. All of the songs are great on here, and they're deep meaning and great imagery and storytelling. Where do viewers need to go for everything that you're doing right now?
GraceMorrison.com, 2 R's, 1 S.
There you go, and more cool merch.
All the merch.
Right, all the merch, and maybe a whole little set like your grandparents' living room.
Yes, I love that idea. We're going to have to talk like visuals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it's not the actual player piano. Maybe it's like, you know, kind of a gutted one so it's lighter and you can move it.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's
then
a
you
good
can put
idea.
like your guitars and case and stuff in the piano then when you move them.
I love it.
That's an idea. I'll tell you what, it's an incredible album. Please go and see Grace live also, which you're going to be amazed, you know, at the storytelling and the entertainment. And the album is great. Morning music coming out, Maybe Modern. Grace Morrison, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.